the speakers of this panel, startups, physical and digital product startups. And also I'd like to call on stage Ricardo Mesquita. He's going to do this moderation. So Ricardo Mesquita is the manager of Lab Miami, a new accelerator that is trying to rock the Latin American world with a little bit of American. Yeah, but you can present yourself. Thanks.
Hello. Hi. I hope by now you have all Googled Francesinha. It is great product design. And if you ask me at the end, there's a gentleman in the back that can help you too. You'll get a great user experience because we'll tell you the best places to go. So I love hearing you guys. I wanted to go back to you, Tia. How does a Portuguese company becomes the global leader of baby bike chairs? You know, because we're probably the lowest birth rate in Europe right now. We'll become extinct anytime soon. How did that happen?
Well, it's all about obviously exploitation and the confidence of the customer. The product must be like bulletproof because if you buy a product that doesn't work, your kid falls off and it's free, but your kid falls off and get injured and everything, you won't buy it ever again. And that's why I talked about so much is our policy of safety. That's really a key point on this product, and that's why I guess we see posts for all over the place these days.
I saw Norway there, Netherlands as well. What other Scandinavian countries are those markets for you, or China? Probably is the largest bike market.
Well, we're trying to start selling in China, also Japan, but we have this little complication on certification because laws there and certification they are very different. Also in the United States, it's all different. So we're trying to get on those markets, and hopefully soon enough we'll be at least in Japan.
Good to know. Going to you mentioned storytelling. What would be the next story you would like to hear?
Can I say anything?
Anything.
Benfica. I would like to say that in Portugal things are getting really big. At least starting to be big. We have Web Summit coming here, so we have a lot of stories coming in the office. What we miss is not only the story, it's not only the idea, we miss the story around it. So if you ask me, I would love to hear about 4 different things right now. I would love to have someone enter the office and saying, I want to disrupt insurance companies. I would love to have that. And I think another thing that we're looking into it is health, cars, insurance, as I said, and then we actually want to think about how can we disrupt a market that for us it's tricky, but that is fintech, all around fintech. I know insurance is in fintech, but insurance as a market, it runs 3 trillion only in the United States. So I would like to have a Portuguese guy saying, I want to disrupt this thing. And it's not only I want to sell or allow the insurance companies to sell more insurance. I want to hear someone say, I want to drag this down.
Do you know the Compara Online, the Chilean company from Sebastian? I mean, they're not reinventing, they're simply aggregating
they are comparing prices down the line. I think there's 3 challenges around insurance. One of them is the big data. So insurance companies are buying a lot of data, so they can get probably a lot of context to offer better service to their customers. Another one is that one, how can we just make the market more competing and more I don't know, more fragmented and don't have these big players. And the third one, it's for me really important, is how can we sell insurance to the millennials. So we have this new generation that wants things right now. I want it fast, I want it now. And insurance is not only the worst service because it has the insurance has the worst NPS of all the services in the world, if you don't know that. And millennials don't like to wait time, don't like bureaucracy. So how can we sell things? How can we make a millennial insure their phones and their TVs and their cars? How can we change this?
Let me ask you something else. You mentioned that you don't want to hear ideas, you want to hear a story. What would you say that for someone who's not a really good storyteller? Mm-hmm. What are the main things to go into that story? What would you put in there?
I would say we have companies in our portfolio that have founders that are not good storytellers, but every person has a story. So we don't care if he knows how to tell his story or not. We want to hear the story. If it's not a good story because he doesn't tell it right, we don't care. We want someone that has experience, that knows about these markets. I personally don't believe that people can disrupt a market that they don't know. Sometimes it happens, but I don't believe that. So I would say that it's not about how people tell the story; it's about their story. So I have great stories that I don't know how to tell, and actually. Once upon a time, I was never speaking to the president, and I tell the best story of my life, which is the story of my grandfather, and nobody understood it. And in the end, they said, "I love your story," but it was, just don't tell it anymore. But so the thing is, I do and personally think that it's not about people know how to talk, know how to pitch. It's about knowledge. It's about their backgrounds.
And also putting a little bit of yourself in each story, right?
Yeah, of course. That's for sure. And if it is your own story, please don't go there. Don't try to build a business around your own story if you don't put yourself 100% in it, or you just mock yourself. And it happens a lot sometimes, as you were saying. People just go to a VC or to a company builder. They have this story, and then after they found the company, they forget that. It's not about the past, it's about they need to follow on. So they need to stay passionate and they need to stay focused on that story. They can start a company today and after 2 years they just want to build another thing. So it's a continuous line, I would say. Yeah.
Thanks. Michael, I love cooking, right? And I was thinking about, where in the kitchen would I put the skills here? So have you thought about that, the user experience more in the context of is it really practical to weight everything before you? How do you do that?
Yeah. So this has all been Sitio has been an evolution. Originally when I designed it, I just wanted it for the way I ate. Like if I knew I could have, if I was counting calories and I knew I could have 300 calories left at the end of the day, I wanted a scale where I could put popcorn on it. And if my Situ says, oh, that's 500 calories, I can just take some popcorn off, see until Situ says it's 300 calories, and then eat it, right? But after my story got out and other people started contacting us, they said, well, that's cool, but that's not how I want to use it. And so the feedback from users and potential users has been invaluable. And so a lot of people have asked for, well, I don't want to weigh everything each time. Let's say I want to make a francesinha, right? And I don't want to weigh the bread and the meat and the cheese and whatever the sauce is. The sauce is amazing. But I want to create this francesinha dish once, and then I want to be able to make a francesinha how I normally make it, and then cut it in half and put apart on Situ. And so we're adding that feature in about a month. It's called My Dishes. But the user feedback is important to know where to go in the future. My story was important to get to where we are now, but now the users are taking over.
Would you see the usage at an industrial level, like restaurants?
We've had inquiries from a lot of dietitians and nutritionists. We've had inquiries from a lot of health-minded restaurants. We've also had an inquiry from a local grocer, in London, where you might buy a bag of nuts or something, and that people would want to weigh. So there definitely are industrial uses for situ. Not with the scale we have now. That's a very much consumer product. But yeah, building it out into a more industrial scale, that's something we're considering.
At what stage are you now with Situ? In what stage are you now?
Well, we're shipping the product now to customers. We've been shipping for about 6 months. Sales are really good. Now we are really focused on adding software features. And 2016, we're looking more into enterprise and industry.
Thanks. I love the quotes from Star Wars, and I just, now that it's behind you. What do you know? What have you learned from what happened, and what takeaways do you? We are in a not anymore as much, but a very risk averse and failure. Overall, the venture and the way you took it, integrating the product development.
I have a microphone. I think that's okay. So yeah, that obviously didn't change my mindset. I did open my first company with 18, so I don't know, I don't receive a salary since February, and it's not the first time this happens to me. And every time it actually gets a little easier. So, you have more years to save money, so you're more prepared. So I know this is who I am. That being said, it also made me see that maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe more years working at a big company could be good. I learn a lot more in a startup, a lot faster, but still there are things that are hard to learn in a startup and that I could learn somewhere else. And I found out that I really want to stay in the hardware space.
I have a question here, any one of you, and then we'll open for the audience. How is it to build a product, design and build a product in Portugal, or from Portugal? How do you look at that? Opportunities, constraints?
I can try from the hardware side. Well, when we started in even now, but when we started in early 2012, basically, I don't know, hardware was an old word. When we were raising money, we were going to every event that happened, and no one was doing hardware. So at least we couldn't find them. They might be hidden somewhere. Even today is hard. So that's hard. Even hiring people is hard because people that we hire, they like to work in hardware, but most of them didn't actually work in hardware before. So yeah, that wasn't very easy. But there is an upside. It's those type of companies I talked about. We actually have a lot of industry in Portugal. So those type of companies that I talked about that have the small details that you need, O-rings and metal inserts and all those small details, you have that all in Portugal. And they're amazing. They have a lot of expertise. They're so nice. It's nice to reach them. You can just call them and show up, and they'll show you everything: shelves and shelves of buttons and rubber bands. And so that's a good point.
On the software side, I don't know if it is working. Yeah, on the software side, I would say the things that people say of Portugal these days, it is around talent. We have a great team. It's fairly easy to get great talent here in Portugal. I don't believe when people say and a lot of money and business people say it's really cheap to hire in Portugal. I don't believe in that. I do believe we have a lot of talent, and we have a lot of people here that like to stay here because Lisbon is a great city and Portugal is a great city. Actually, I'm one of them. It's not about the money, it's about doing stuff. And the second thing, it's about money. We have a lot for companies, not for people, but for companies. We have a lot of investors coming up. We have a lot of money now showing up in Europe. Now, Fred Wilson wrote last week about a lot of VCs that are in family offices and funds that are putting a lot of money into the European scene. And now we are starting to get another thing that is the first companies that started here in Portugal they are not yet on the Series A, or they didn't do any exits. Some of them did, but more than that, we have a lot of talent that comes from those companies, that spinned off out of those companies, and they are making their own companies or working for other startups. So around product development and product management, we have a lack of people that really understand what we're talking about here. But since we have a lot of companies that are doing it and using new agile methods, those people are spinning off and starting their own companies. So I think in 5 years, 4 years, we will have 2 exits or 2 big companies going public, and a lot of small companies around software coming from Portugal to the world. Since I do think, if you're thinking about launching a new B2C product, a business to consumer from Portugal, it's really hard, because we don't understand the market. We are just a small niche in the Iberia. But if you are thinking about launching a B2B software as a service product, you can do it anywhere, and why not Lisbon? Because Lisbon is a great city, it's a cheap city, and let's think about it. It's the same thoughts that the Berliners, and some of them are here, thought 10 years ago, and now they have big companies. So I do think Lisbon is a perfect place to start.
I agree with it.
I could just add, my business partner is Portuguese. I'm obviously American, but we're a UK-based company, although we do use one developer who's, is it Porto or Lisbon? He's in Porto, yeah. I would move to the company in Lisbon in a second. I think Lisbon, right now I don't have enough money to, but honestly, if I did, I would leave London and move the company to Lisbon in a second, because this city has so much to offer. Quality of life. It is a lot cheaper to live. You get a lot more for your dollar. I think there is a lot of talent here. And I think the talent is a little less expensive than in other places, but I think Lisbon probably does have a very bright future in front of it. It's just getting a couple successes really well known out of it, and I don't think you guys are going to have a problem getting more companies to launch and exit in Lisbon.
Guys, if you want.
Well, on the Polish part side, I would say like the mechanical side part, I would say like we have very, very potential people in Portugal. We develop all the products in Portugal, and as I said on the presentation, obviously we contract outside designers from countries where we want to attack with our products, but most of them we develop it inside, and we bring people to Portugal to get in touch with the production, the products, to see how it's made, how it's gonna be. And in case of baby seats, I'd say I tell them to bring them kids and to sit on our seats and to see how it works, because you see, on these products you could do almost everything. You have this freedom, but that sometimes can get complicated, because you need to stick to one decision, and only on the next years you'll have another product. So sometimes it gets complicated because there are so many ways to do it, and we like to do this inside. We have the tradition, we're doing baby seats almost for 20 years, and there's a very big margin for progress here inside in Portugal.
Thanks, Theo. Guys, we have no time for questions, but because we need to go for lunch. But if you want to grab any of these guys at the lunch break, I'm sure they'll be available. Okay, thank you so much.